So, but let's not talk too much about the ugly side of like, unfortunately, Hollywood, right? And more just like the fact that as like a culture, we're still always like trying to pull through for us to try to reach those goals so that new doors can be opened, you know?
Yeah.
Because it was a really good movie. I really did like it. The kids really seemed to enjoy it, and I always love taking them to experience these things because I just remember growing up, and we've talked about this before, but not seeing myself on TV, right? You don't, like, when you're younger, you don't really think about it too much, but then of course, like, there's times where like you're trying to emulate what you're seeing, like style wise, whatever, like personality wise, and you're trying really hard to find someone that kind of reflects you, you know? And knowing that even though like someone might have that person, but they don't look like you, you know, you're not going to get the same experience that person, like that character is experiencing, you know? And there's so many, you're like really trying hard to like relate, to find something you can relate to. Even when we've talked about this before, even when it's on like the Spanish channels, the fact that they don't look like us, like the leads, you know?
Yeah.
So to take the kids to that, to see someone within their like culture, hearing music that they have listened to before, and then seeing someone that reflects not only, maybe not themselves, but like, oh, my cousins, my brother, you know what I mean? Like the fact that you're like, right, there's that representation.
Yeah.
Even though, because you could tell a kid, like, you can be whatever you want to be, like, blah, 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 be an astronaut, all these things, right?
Yeah.
But as you grow up and you get older, you start realizing, like, right, but I haven't seen someone of my skin color, of my background make it. So you know how much harder you have to work in order to try to not do that just for yourself, but for whoever else is following behind in your footsteps, right?
Yeah.
That it almost seems like impossible, you know? Like, it's a dream that just seems unreachable. But then to see someone like on screen and being like, right, now I can do that because I'm seeing it. It seems so insignificant, but it's got such, it's, you know, it's going to leave a lasting impression on the kids. And so I always like love being able to take them to go experience that, you know? Because I really do think children need that. They really do. It just makes a world of a difference, being able to see that. And being able to see, like, see, like, those are things that we've experienced. It's kind of how we've also felt, you know? So,
yeah.
They did a good job at, like, I mean, there's only so much you can do, like, in 2 hours. I don't even know how long the movie was. But, you know, I think they did good about trying to incorporate as much as they could without it being like too like overbearing, if that makes sense. Because there was some moments where I was like, I think they're like where it's not coming off natural. Does that make sense? Where I was like, because sometimes, like, you know, like back in the day growing up, like there's like people like, okay, let's say like Eric Estrada, you know how he's like darker, but the way he talked and stuff, like I just, me personally, I was like, I don't see that like with anyone that I can relate to, like not even cousins, no one that's like reminded me of him to where I was like, yeah, I don't know about that one. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
To where, because it's like, oh, it's not really natural to us. And so like there were moments where I was like, I think they're kind of like maybe pushing it, like, you know, with George Lopez, like trying to throw in certain like Spanish things where I was like, ooh, I don't know, that's really, because he's more like Mexican American. Does that make sense? Like he hasn't really been so much about throwing around some of the words that he was throwing around. It was just kind of like, it did kind of catch me off guard a little bit.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. Like that it, I was afraid that it was gonna be like pushed too much.
Right.
Of the well, I should say that the representation would have been pushed too much. You know, like that's what I was kind of concerned with. But No, it was a good balance, like how they transition from one scene to another and the references here and there and not being afraid how natural to go about it, like nah, you know what? Like we can relate,
Right.
We got all the references and exactly like speaking of George Lopez when I found out he was going to be in there, I was like, "Oh man, watch them have him like be extra, right?"
Right.
But no, he did great. He worked that character.
Right.
It was him, that character. Like um,
Yeah, for
for
sure.
him to
Right.
play.
Right.
And he did it well. And again, even though how you got to know who he was, being, it was like, ah, crap. Like watch them do it like even more. They're gonna push
Mm-hmm.
it even further or have like emphasis on certain things, but again, like no, he just did well. The
Right.
flow of everyone all together too went well. And again, just seeing small details that we just were happy to see, like, oh, okay, this is again like natural,
Right.
and like you said, got to see it on the screen like that, and being a superhero and so forth, like or just a character, right? Like from a comic book,
Right.
just
Right.
like a novel or anything, like
Right.
being portrayed, by a Mexican American, like
Right.
great, that it was awesome,
And I did like, and this might. I think that's what I'm saying about it being like too overly like cultural, if that makes sense. Like, because I think not everyone, especially like on this side of the border, has those experiences. So the good balance of being able to to not do, because what was I gonna say? Um, there were certain parts where I was like, oh, I don't know how they're gonna what's it called? Sorry, like I went like brain dead right there. I'm gonna blame it on the beer. I'm just kidding.
or the wings, they get hot.
For real, it's yeah. They're really spicy. They really are.
Yeah,
We got the
they're
in case y'all didn't know, we got wings from Pluckers, and then we got the mango narrow ones, and they are spicy.
yeah.
I always forget that they're gonna be a little bit spicier. Well, it's because there is like, okay, like with the Spanglish, Sometimes I was like, I'm glad that they didn't do too much of that. And what I was gonna say was with the thing of like, not everyone is immersed in in our culture, like from that background, as much as other ones. So there were some references where like I know the kids were like, what is that? Like they didn't get the reference. So it's like cool to be able to go back and then show them like this is what that meant, right? Like um but also because of the fact of like him going to college and one of the kids not going to college, and like the reality of like that's just how it is for us, like not and to show that like yeah, they're like into like going to school and like even working maybe the stereotypical job, but then him like having I just like that it wasn't too stereotypical in the sense either, like because I was telling Adi like earlier, I was like, I'm glad like once you kind of know more about the actors, right, that are playing these characters, to see that they aren't your typical like Mexican American, if that makes sense. And that, like me growing up, like I got kind of picked on by our own people for like wanting to read books and stuff. So then, like, kind of seeing that they kind of talk about those things and those experiences makes it even more like real, authentic in that sense. Because I'm like, okay, now I can kind of see myself even more in these people because like I have similar backgrounds to them, and it's not just like the typical Mexican stuff. Does that make sense? To where like you end up being like labeled like a no sabo or like stuff like that. Like there's just like a good. I really like the way they approached, and I just loved the
Well,
story in general. Like
yeah, I think it's also because we come from a first generation background,
absolutely
So as you see there in the movie, that's pretty much what it is. Like, of course
the
they're
struggles of that of being
yeah,
first
and
generation.
how they go over how his dad came over, and worked to bring his family over, and then they were the ones born here. So
And to see how far they could reach their dreams, you know?
yeah, yeah. At the same time, dealing with reality,
Right.
like of going to
Setbacks and
school,
stuff.
trying to get a job afterwards, where they may have to work or where they get jobs and get treated at those jobs, So
Oh yeah, for sure. Because there were some like funny, there were some funny references of like, you know, even though you break in new doors, like you might still have to start at the bottom of those jobs, and like they just kind of like, and that's like happened a lot where like white people would just like because they see you Hispanic give you the typical like didn't even bother learning your name. They're just like, oh yeah, Jose or whatever, like you
yeah,
know.
and see, like honestly, like when I go watch a movie and I know like some background to it or a synopsis to it, I'm like, ah man, like we're gonna see like the white guilt and then us going through the struggle,
Right.
having to explain it over again, which kind of sounds like I'm being, naive to the facts, like which I'm not really. It's just like, hey, like let's not let it be about that, just uh
Keep your eyes
just
on the
come up with
prize.
something
Yeah.
else. But then you remember it, hey, but that's how it is though.
Right.
And so that's what even makes it greater because it's like, you know what? Like, actually, no, I mean, that's how it is, point blank, period. You can't avoid it.
Right.
Uh, but again, my only concern was like, well, yeah, but don't overdo it. Like I get it. We don't have to uh, send a message across every single time
Right.
or how you deliver it too, right? So
Right.
um, basically, off of those concerns, they just delivered it great, and I was like, yes, yes, this works. I like the dialogue, what they came up with, and how they portrayed it, so it was awesome. Like,
There were
to
some parts where in the beginning where I was like, it did make me like, it did make me cry, not want to cry. Like, I legit was crying, like,
yeah,
through parts because I'm like, okay, yeah, like, they're really touching deep down on, like, because it was a little, like, frustrating to see the struggle. And then how I was like, oh, right when you're like, right, we're moving the family forward by doing this thing, how, like, the setback. And that was one thing that I kind of had, like, I don't know how I felt about it because I'm like, well, right, that's the reality for all of us. And then, like, but to see it on screen is just kind of like, shit, like, we do all go through that. And it kind of, like, saddens me for us, like, as a people that it's just like, because, it's an ongoing theme. Like, we're resilient, we're fighters. And it's just like, there does come a point where it's like, and I felt it when he was like, I don't want to keep having to, like, fight and, like always be like looking on the brighter side and being like we can get through this because it does become like tiresome to like
it does because like it reminded me of my own experiences where like I like to have walked in certain places where I don't get referred to the wrong department, like or encounter uncomfortable awkwardness from white people that like just make you want to like snap or just have to correct them, like
right
and that's what I mean. Like that's why I kind of go with and what I'm trying to like translate over into movies that I don't want to see because I'm like, right, but you like to think things are getting better somewhat or
right
evolving, especially with these sellouts, how they act out here.
right
Like, oh, okay, it doesn't happen anymore, and maybe we're just complaining too much, and we
right
need to get over it and just realize, Americana,
you just gotta
corporate,
work harder
yeah, corporate bootstrap,
yep
guidelines and policies and whatnot. Man, whatever, man. Since school, you get taught that, and it's really like to be put in your place.
right
You're getting taught that to be put in your place.
absolutely
Like stay in line, stay in your place, and follow the rules. Like
right
some bullshit, And then You get to the real world, and exactly just like how the movie portrays, that's the reality of it. So then I backtrack on my concerns because it's like, you know what, like, no, this is great because it is showing that again. I just hated that it's like a constant theme over and over.
No, yeah, for sure.
You
I
know,
I felt the same way about that.
yeah. So in the sequel, I don't want to see that. You
Yeah, for
know,
sure. Going for that should be removed. I don't think the constant struggle for us needs to be like
yeah, because it's
a
like the part
theme.
when he shows up to, and I'm sorry, spoilers, but where he shows up to the. So I'm giving y'all a couple seconds to.
If y'all want to go ahead and log off at this point.
Yeah, or just skip over. I don't know. But he goes and because he's looking forward to a meeting after he just got fired, working for the stepmom. Is it? I guess
No, it's the aunt.
the aunt. The aunt's well, her brother's daughter, right?
Yeah, the niece.
The niece that doesn't like what she's doing after her dad's
With her dad's
passing.
company, yeah.
Yeah, with his company after he has passed. So he's going to go, to this meeting, and then like, of course, he goes to the front desk to let them know he's there, and the lady is telling him, oh yeah, what was it?
For deliveries going on.
Deliveries is that way,
Yeah.
like shit like that. We get it, that happens, but like, couldn't have just been like, are you sure? Like she didn't say, something like that,
Right.
rather than it be some,
A stereotype thing of like, oh, you're only here as a delivery
yeah,
boy.
you see he's dressed up, you know what I'm saying? And even if it was for a fucking interview, like to be in delivery, like,
Never assume.
yeah, like he's there for an interview, like how he's telling you. You don't know what it's for. Ask him what it's for.
Right.
So again, that it reminds me of that. Like, but to say, hey, actually, no, that's absolutely accurate.
Just the reality of it.
Yeah, like unfortunately, but yeah,
That or even like I think in the beginning, like when he comes back from like having graduated and he's like so excited and they're supposed to be celebrating and then like unfortunately, and I see this all the time where they're like they let them finish off their dreams and then like they come back with the reality check of like, hey, shit's gone, like hit the fan over here and like, you know, it not only takes away from the celebration, but now it's like trying to scramble to figure out what's gonna happen moving forward. That
yeah,
it just like kind of like brings you down, and that's like I think that's why a lot of people don't try or like end up giving up so quickly because it's like why even bother if like exactly we took one big step forward and now we have to take three steps back like
yeah,
and I love that they touch on the realism of like following this American standard model of what's gonna keep you like make you successful, right? Like go to college, get a degree,
yeah,
And then you're like, oh shit, I can't do anything with that fucking degree, you know? Like you go and you do and you follow all the shit that they've been like stuffing down our throats since, we started school. Just stay in school, go to college, get a degree, you're gonna get a good job, and that's all you have to worry about. It's like, and I love how they make the joke about being in debt. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna go in debt to go get a degree when like, what is it? You're overqualified to do this job now. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so no, yeah, that sucks, and it really did. Like, even with the Wakanda Forever movie, I don't like when there's a white savior. That really irks the shit out of me, which I did not see in this one. So props to DC for that. I really appreciated that. I just I don't want to see the constant struggle for us that there needs to be that much suffering in order for us to like somehow get like because at the end of the movie things were still not fixed all the way. There was still uncertainty. And even after like right, you do all these great things and you don't know if there's going to be like anything in return whether or not you did that for that reason. Like I'm not saying, oh, go do something and expect something in return. It's just like you would think that like, oh, right, the good guy is gonna end up like everything will be fixed and like great for him moving forward. And the fact that the reality that was really really realistic. That yeah, like just because you're a hero doesn't mean your fucking life is just like fixed now after the fact. You know, like
Yeah.
you just have to come back to reality and like, yep, this is what it is. You know.
Yeah.
So I appreciate seeing it, and it's like heartwarming, but at the same time, I'm just like going for it. I don't want that because I don't want the kids to think that that should be like a norm for us, that we
Yeah.
have to suffer in order to like go forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that to be like. I don't think the word legacy's correct in this one, but it's like I'm trying to say something similar to that, to where it's like that's what. Yeah, I just don't want that to be our struggle as a people.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
again, like if that was Spider Man, it would have been like, oh, aren't you a little too young? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got an interview here. Like, are you sure? Like,
Right.
she never told me anything about this. And then, Spider Man comes with these like jokes and whatever. No, it was that, like I explained. You see, like, you know, it's the constant reminding theme, that I don't like to kind of see. So even those whatever seconds of that scene, I hate it because I was just like. But then again, yes, like I said, I'm like right, but that's true. That's what happens. But yet again, it's just like maybe if we like I said, moving forward, you just don't do that, and show that we aren't a threat,
Right. Right.
or aren't in those positions only and only qualified for those things and so forth. So, you know, uh, which I thought they did great with George Lopez's character.
Right, because he was not the stereotypical like Mexican American. I love that he was like into conspiracies and the government, and he's like
Right.
smart, and he's like an inventor. Like I love that they're like that they give each one of them like more relatable personalities, because not all of us fit in one box. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So I did appreciate that. Like, and the soundtrack was badass. Like, I love the different types of like music that they used.
Yeah. Yeah. So you guys, if you haven't seen it, especially our community out there, we need to just show more support, even if it's less than us, because I understand, the numbers are going to come back and it's like, oh, it didn't do so great, or yeah, but that's because it just, again, another reminder that
That's out of our hands.
yeah, I mean, we're only a certain portion. No matter if you say, oh, so many of us are here now, it's still a reminder that we know what the hell is going on. You know what I'm saying? Like, the majority, we get it. Why is there a majority and why is there a minority? I mean, that's my point.
For real. And we can do it because, like, and I'm sorry to have to bring this up, but if we could, if people rub us the wrong way and like offend us or disrespect us, and we can take their careers away, like Yaritza and them, like that they're like right here trying to do as much as they can to do damage control now. I know we can do it to like keep those numbers steady.
Yeah.
To fingers crossed that we get a sequel for Blue Beetle, because our kids need it.
It's yeah. I haven't seen the last couple Marvel movies, but from what I hear, they suck, and I'm pretty sure this movie like kills them all. So like, what you mean? So
You just had to take a shot at Marvel, huh?
well, I mean, because it's always like been Marvel, right? Like, oh, right, like every Marvel's great. I mean, every Marvel movie's great, right?
Not every movie, but majority.
Huh. Yeah, where's the argument now? Oh, every single
These
one is
last
going to be
ones have
great.
been shitty. Yeah, these last ones have not been it for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, yeah, keep it going. Include him in the universe, damn it.
He deserves to be there.
Yeah, for sure.
But so in this economy, we know it's expensive, especially if we have kids. So hit him up on Tuesdays at the AMC. And wait, Studio Movie Grill also does Tuesday discount days, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So yeah, and with AMC, you just gotta sign up, like, in order to get the benefits. So you do have to do that, but it's just like simple stuff like email. But just because we get it, it's it can get expensive, especially if you have
True.
kids. So
True.
that's what we just wait for Tuesdays.
Right.
But no, yeah, I think that was good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great movie. So you guys check it out.
Yep. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think
That's
we
it.
out.
Signing off. Spit talk. We out.